All right, in this explainer, we're going to walk through a factual timeline of what was really going on in Sumter County during 2008 and 2009, just the key events that shaped this period.
So, let's set the scene. We're talking 2008, 2009. Nationally, there's really only one story everyone's talking about, right? The global financial crisis, the Great Recession. So, what was actually happening on the ground in Sumter County during all that? Well, while the recession is definitely the backdrop, the day-to-day business of the county, from legal stuff to huge environmental projects, it all just kept moving forward.
We're going to start in 2008 with a number, a really big one, $40 million. Now, you might be thinking that's for a new road or a big construction project, but nope, this wasn't a budget item. It was the approximate size of a really significant legal settlement.
And here are the specifics. In 2008, a long-running lawsuit over amenity fees in the villages finally came to an end. We're talking about the fees residents pay for things like pools and rec centers. The resolution was that settlement, around $40 million. It was a landmark event, especially for the financial mechanics of the county's largest community. But you know, the real impact went way beyond the dollar amount. The end of this whole thing brought a new level of public attention to some pretty fundamental questions. Like, how exactly are these amenities governed? Who's actually in control? And how are the fees people pay being structured and used? Suddenly, these topics were a much more visible part of the public conversation, and they ended up shaping debates for years. So, while that whole financial and government story was unfolding, another major county project was hitting its final stages. This one had nothing to do with legal battles. It was all about a decade of environmental work focused on one of the county's key natural resources, the Lake Panasoffkee Restoration Project. This timeline here shows you the home stretch. On September 8, 2008, the Lake Panasoffkee Restoration Council was already talking about the project being done. A month later, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, you'll hear them called SWF-WMD, held its final public tour of the work. Then, on May 29, 2009, SWF-WMD made it official, marking the 10-year restoration as complete. Okay, now let's shift gears and jump into early 2009. We're moving from that big environmental story to an administrative one. It was a formal change that, on paper, redefined the geography of how county services were delivered. And here we've got the official language pulled straight from the Sumter County resolution passed on January 13, 2009. It says, "The functional boundaries of the county seat are expanded to include all territory within Sumter County." It's very direct, kind of dry, but it's a significant little piece of administrative language. So what did that really mean? Well, Bushnell was still the formal core, the county seat, but this resolution was a key step. It officially recognized that county services weren't just for one town, they were for the entire county. It was really just a necessary move to reflect the reality of a growing and more spread out population. This kind of brings us back to the question we started with and really puts things in perspective. Nationally, the housing market was getting hammered by the recession, but in Sumter County, the growth just kept on going. And like we just saw with the Lake Panasoffkee project, major infrastructure and environmental work didn't just stop. The core functions of the county continued, which shows a pretty notable level of resilience. So, what are the big takeaways from this 2-year slice of history? First, a major legal settlement put a big spotlight on amenity governance and money. Second, a massive, decade-long environmental project successfully crossed the finish line. Third, the county government officially expanded its service area to match its growth. And finally, all of this was happening while the national economy was in serious trouble, which just shows that the county kept on running. So that pretty much covers 2008 and 2009. On the next explainer, we're going to move into 2010 and 2011, a time that was really defined by counting people, political power, and a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah, the 2010 census is about to put a hard number on all that growth in Sumter County, and it's going to spark some brand new debates about political power and how you even count it. We're also going to see how things like industrial incidents and major criminal cases, including the conviction in the Terrytown double murder, really mark the public safety landscape. You won't want to miss that one.